So it's official, after many rumors, leaks, and downright impatience, the iPhone 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max are officially here, and man, out the gate, orders came flying in for these phones. Not too long after pre-ordering was made available, shipping dates started getting pushed out by months, and man, there were lines at Apple stores across the globe last Friday with hundreds of people hoping they could get their hands on one of these popular devices to avoid long shipping delays. And I'm happy to say that I was lucky enough to get my hands on both the iPhone 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max on the first day it was made available, and I've been using both for about a week now, and I gotta say, it's been an interesting experience so far. Apple made some really unique choices this year for their beloved smartphone, and a part of me can understand the initial draw for many people looking to upgrade this year, but honestly, there's another side of me that feels as though these phones are a bit underwhelming. And let's start with the first real major change that the iPhone 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max bring to the table, and that's its build material. Taking a page out of the Apple Watch Ultra's playbook, Apple decided to forego the use of stainless steel, the premium material it was using on its Pro iPhone for quite some time now, and use titanium instead. Generally speaking, titanium is a significantly stronger metal in comparison to aluminum and even stainless steel, which in theory should help mitigate damage to the iPhone's frame. Now, I will say it doesn't make the glass flanking the front or back of the phone any stronger, so keep that in mind. It's still using Apple's ceramic shield, which is pretty strong for glass, but you're still going to want to make sure you do everything in your power not to drop either phone on the concrete. Early stress tests are not looking good for this phone, but the use of titanium is a welcome change here. It has a much nicer brushed finish as opposed to the reflective polished one they've used before, and they're nicely color matched to the new iPhone colorways. I've got the 15 Pro Max in the new blue titanium that looks incredibly sleek, very beautiful in person, and I've got the 15 Pro Max in this new natural titanium color. It has this industrial look to it as the phone is supposed to resemble basically a slab of metal. I think the titanium looks the best in this particular colorway. It's less fingerprint and smudge prone, and overall it's one of the most unique looking iPhones to date. And to me, it's not necessarily the strength of the titanium that makes it appealing, but rather the added benefit of making this phone significantly lighter. Titanium is fantastic because it offers exceptional toughness and protection without making your device feel like a tank. This is a big deal for me as a Pro Max user. Since the iPhone 13 Pro Max, I've always felt as though the Pro Max variants were too heavy, to the point where holding them for extended periods of time would start to get fatiguing and uncomfortable. So the 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max being much lighter is a big plus here. Another part of the older design that contributed to the discomfort was the way that the stainless steel frame integrated into the glass. It was completely squared off at a 90-degree angle, so not only did it make the big phone harder to grip, it kind of felt like the frame was almost digging into your palm. So in an effort to make the 15 Pro lineup more comfortable, Apple ever so slightly rounded out the frame so it's easier to hold. It's very hard to notice just by looking at it, but it is a better feeling in the hand overall. But aside from the new build material and the new colors, there's really not much else that has changed with the 15 Pro when talking form factor, and I'm just gonna say it, it's kind of disappointing. I was really hoping for more of an overhaul to this look that the iPhone has had since basically the iPhone 12, and even though there's nothing wrong with it, it is starting to get a little old. There was so much hype going into this drop as this was supposed to be the year for the makeover, and I just feel as though we got more of the same. Though the minor updates have made the 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max enjoyable to use 1 week later, they're undeniably familiar devices that have left me wanting more from a design standpoint. Now yes, the iPhone 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max didn't usher in the facelift we all wanted, but it did bring in some much needed changes from a functionality standpoint that I think are really important. Number one, after many years of Apple essentially saying F you to everyone, it finally folded and made the entire iPhone lineup compatible with USB Type-C. Not because they wanted to, no, they would have force-fed us Lightning for eternity if they could. It took the European Union to essentially force Tim Cook into submission. Now this is great because most modern devices in general use USB Type-C now, so it should make it a lot simpler to charge your iPhone. The Pro models also come with added functionality with this port, as it can support USB 3 data transfer speeds of up to 10 gigabits per second. This allows you to very quickly transfer stuff off your phone onto, say, a computer, but also the opportunity for more unique things like recording 4K 60 frames per second in HDR ProRes by connecting the phone to a portable SSD. We'll get into the camera features in just a bit, but this is a useful feature if you're really into shooting video with a mobile device. The other new feature that's a first for the iPhone is, again, inspired by the Apple Watch Ultra, and that's the addition of the action button. It replaced the silent switch on the iPhone, which I'm now realizing has been on every iPhone ever, I think. And don't worry if you love the silent switch, the action button by default is set to silent and unsilent your phone when you press it, but you can now have the luxury of mapping that button to a specific action of your choice. And Apple went all out on this UI for setting this up and provides some really great options options for you to choose from, like activating the camera, starting a voice memo, and my personal favorite, which is to run a shortcut. This option basically allows you to map the action button to virtually any function on the iPhone, given that you know how to use shortcuts. I have mine set to unlock my Tesla, which is great because there are times where my Bluetooth connection doesn't automatically unlock my doors when I'm walking up to the car, so being able to press the action button quickly to unlock is so clutch. It's like having a traditional key fob baked into my phone. But let's talk about performance on the iPhone 15 Pro. This is the first iPhone using Apple's new Pro chip, as it's powered by the A17 Pro. And Apple did go into specifics about how this new chipset allows users to not only do things like play console level games, but also gain maximum efficiency for things like better battery life. And as to be expected, from a day-to-day perspective, both phones have been performing great. Everything is silky smooth when navigating around the OS. ProMotion continues to deliver, especially on these displays that have a slightly smaller bezel than before. Though I haven't been able to test any of the console games, the mobile games that I usually play that are relatively spec intensive all perform great, and was especially enjoyable on the Pro Max with its larger screen. Now throughout all this, I've been very closely monitoring the thermals of both phones. There's been a lot of chatter of people experiencing overheating issues with the 15 Pro. Now, I did feel the phone get pretty warm the very first day I set up my 15 Pro Max, which was concerning, but after I did the software update to iOS 17.02, it seemed to have resolved the issue. And as far as what my battery life has been 1 week later, this was a big focus area for me because my battery life on the 14 Pro Max has just been terrible, if I'm being honest. I'm happy to say it's noticeably better. I know it's only been a week, but I almost got through 2 full days of moderate use on a full charge with my 15 Pro Max, very much mirroring the impeccable battery performance I had with the 13 Pro Max, and it's been a breath of fresh air to say the least. Mr. Who's the Boss just did his brilliant battery test of the new 15 lineup, and the results showed the 15 Pro Max doing very well. Now, the regular Pro didn't do as good on his test, but so far my experience has been pretty solid. I got almost a day and a half on a full charge. Now, I know it's early and I'm definitely knocking on wood here, but so far the battery life out the gate seems to be way better than what I was getting on the 14 Pros. Now let's talk about cameras, one of the most important areas of performance, and it's really interesting. We're starting to see some differentiation happen between the 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max. Though they both come with 4 cameras total, 3 on the back and 1 in the front, the regular Pro has a 3x optical zoom lens similar to last year, while the Pro Max has a new 5x optical zoom using a new Terra Prism design. Apple also equipped this particular camera with its 3D sensor shift technology, which gives users some pretty insane stabilization. You can also adjust the focal length settings on the main camera now, which is a pretty nifty tool if you're a serious photo shooter. So a lot of the features associated with the cameras on the iPhone 15 Pro are becoming more and more pro-like for enthusiasts and beyond, which is really interesting. And generally speaking, the still images coming out of all the Pro cameras are fantastic, as to be expected. They're tack sharp even if you punch in with the help of the larger sensors. Colors are accurate and natural looking while still giving excellent dynamic range. And I gotta say, the portrait shots so far are looking excellent. Speaking of portrait shots, a new software feature Apple introduced with the iPhone 15 is the ability to turn any picture of a person or a pet into a portrait picture, even if you didn't select portrait mode. All you have to do is select portrait here in the camera app and it'll automatically adjust the photo to a portrait mode one. You can also edit the focus point as well, which is kind of sick. This is really impressive in terms of processing power. The camera has to be taking in a crap ton of data when you press the shutter button in order to have this capability. And even though I think it's more of a parlor trick than a feature that will actually be used often, no lie, it is pretty cool. Now, where Apple really shines is with its video quality. It's so far ahead of the competition, and I'm happy to say it keeps pulling forward with what the 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max can do when it comes to video. Much like the still image capabilities, Apple seems to be making a concerted effort around giving users pro-like features when it comes to video, as you can now shoot at up to 4K 60 in ProRes so long as you have an external SSD attached to the phone, as well as the ability to shoot in a log profile. Now, if you're not a camera nerd like me, the simplest way to explain what a log profile is, it's basically a video format that gives you a very flat, unsaturated file, but loaded with a ton of digital data. This gives you way more flexibility in the edit when it comes to color grading to create a more specific look without compromising the quality of the video, and it's pretty nuts that a smartphone is actually able to do this. Now, that said, I'm pretty sure 99% of people will never use this feature because log footage on its own is not flattering at all. It requires some sort of editing, which is not the simplest thing to do. So again, very very much geared towards pros and enthusiasts. But don't let that worry you. Out the box, the regular 4K footage on the 15 Pro looks amazing, without question the best video coming out of any smartphone period. And to me, it's still the biggest flex for the iPhone in terms of its processing strength. And that brings me to my overall thoughts on the iPhone 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max 1 week later. And here's the thing, I think this is Apple's best effort to truly make these devices pro devices, but in that regard, it kind of caters to that 1% of people that actually identify as a pro. The beastly A17 Pro chip and how it's being leveraged here to give users the ability to play advanced games or have really robust computational photography features or the ability to shoot log, all of these things are amazing, but most will go completely unused by the average consumer with the 15 Pro in his or her hand. And if you take those new features away, you're honestly not left with anything too exciting with this new offering. And because of that, I'm a bit more inclined to recommend the non-Pro iPhone 15s this year for most people. Now, are the Pros solid phones 1 week later? Everything seems to indicate yes, but I'm gonna have to do a lot more long-term testing to really pressure test how it's gonna perform over time. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on the longer-term reviews. And let me know what you guys think about the iPhone 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max. Are you guys fans of these phones? Or do you think Apple missed the mark this year? Curious to get your thoughts. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below. And in case you guys are interested in learning more about my experience with the 14 Pro 1 year later, check out these reviews here. They're gonna help you be as informed as possible.